Algebra, we are moving on to the day 12 notes in our notes packet. It says quiz review here. You do not have a quiz. You do have a test coming up in a few days, but you do not have a quiz. But we are going to treat this as a note sheet to help us get ready to review everything one last time before reviewing the first half of the unit as well, and then you'll have the test by the end of this week. For factoring, you don't have to worry about problems like number 1. Let's look at number 2. Okay, so notice the directions say to factor completely. This means that you're going to look for a GCF if possible. GCF being something other than 1. And then you're going to do a box problem. And that's it. So for number 2, you've got a 1 in front of the x squared, a 5, and a negative 36. The only number that goes into all of those is 1, and they don't all have an x in common, so there really isn't a GCF other than 1. And so the first step, we don't have to worry about. Step 2, box problem. So it's got to multiply to be negative 36 and add to be 5. Those two numbers are going to be negative 9 and 4. All right, if you don't know what it is, try all the numbers that multiply to be negative 36, like negative 6 and 6, negative 36 and 1, 36 and negative 1, and just try all different kinds of possibilities until you get to the correct one. All right, use your calculator if you don't know all the numbers that go into 36 or whatever the number happens to be. But we've got negative 9 and 4. So we're going to end up having two sets of parentheses. X goes in the front of both. Minus 9 will go in one of them, and positive 4 will go in the other one. It doesn't matter which one has the minus 9, which one has the plus 4. And then you're done. Don't solve. Okay, we're not going to end up with x equals. If you look at number 3, GCF-wise, they don't all have an x in common, but if you look at 2, 26, and 44, all of those can be divided by 2. So we have a GCF of 2. Once we pull out the GCF, the stuff that's going to go inside the parentheses is what all of these were after dividing by 2. So we're going to divide each of those by 2. 2x squared divided by 2 is just x squared. 26x divided by 2 is 13x. 44 divided by 2 is 22. And then from there, now we can do a box problem. It's got to multiply to be 22 and add to be 13. Think about all the numbers that multiply to be 22. The only ones that are going to work is 11 times 2. So we're going to have two sets of parentheses. The 2 is still out in front. Don't forget about the GCF. The x goes at the beginning of both parentheses, and then it's a positive 11, so plus 11, and a positive 2, so plus 2. After that, you are done. Don't solve, just leave it in factored form. All right, number 4, same idea. You're going to look for a GCF. All right, this one has a 1, 2, and a negative 15. That's not going to really have any GCF of any sort except for 1. But if you notice, they all do have an x in common. So we're going to want to factor out an x. You take the smallest exponent. So x to the first is what we're going to be factoring out. To figure out what goes in these parentheses, you have to divide each of these terms by x. So x cubed divided by x is x squared. 2x squared divided by x is negative 2x. And negative 15x divided by x is negative 15. All right, and then from there, you can do your box problem. It's got to multiply to be negative 15 and add to be negative 2. Those two numbers are going to be negative 5 and 3. So you have your GCF out in front, two sets of parentheses. We're going to have an x at the front of both of them. Negative 5 means minus 5. Positive 3 means plus 3. And then there you go. Number 5 is going to be kind of a combo of 3 and 4 together. For number 5, you'll notice 3, 9, and 54. Those are all divisible by 3. And if you notice, they all have an x. So we're not only going to have a GCF of 3, but x is going to be part of our GCF as well. We're going to take the x that has the smallest exponent, so x to the first. And to figure out what goes in these parentheses, you divide every single term by 3x. So 3x cubed divided by 3x is just going to be x squared. 9x squared divided by 3x is 3x. All right, just 9 divided by 3 is 3, x squared divided by x is x. And then 54x divided by 3x, the x's will cancel. 54 divided by 3 will be 18. And now we can do a box problem. It's got to multiply to be negative 18 and add to be negative 3. Those two numbers are going to be negative 6 and positive 3. You put your GCF out in front. You put the x at the front of both parentheses. Negative 6 means minus 6. Positive 3 means plus 3. And then you have your final answer. All right, if you had time and you wanted to multiply this all out, you should end up back with the original problem. Okay, we're going to skip 6. We're going to skip these. We're going to do factor if necessary and then solve using ZPP. So in number 7, you'll notice that it's already all factored for us. It's got all the parentheses and everything, so you don't have to actually factor. We're going to go straight to ZPP. All right, we're going to set each piece equal to 0. This is an x. You can set x equal to 0. If this was just like a 2 or a 5, you couldn't set that equal to 0. But because it's a variable, you can. 2x plus 1, we're going to set that equal to 0. And we're going to set x minus 4 equal to 0. All right, so this one's all done, x equals 0. This middle one, we're going to subtract 1. And then we're going to divide by 2, giving you x equals negative 1/2. This last one, you're going to add 4 on all sides, you get x equals 4. And that's how that's done. With these problems, what you want to be careful of, all right, is you want to make sure that it is equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, you're going to have to move some things around. Step 2, all right, you're going to look for a GCF if possible. All right, if it's just a GCF of 1, it's not really a GCF. Step 3, you're going to do a box problem. Okay, so those are going to be the steps that you're going to want to follow. All right, we're going to skip number 8 for the moment. Let's look at number 9. For number 9, you'll notice it is not equal to 0. So we need to move this 42, the negative 42, add it to both sides. When you add it to the left side, keep it so that it's in descending order. So just stick it on at the end so that it's 3x squared plus 27x plus 42 equals 0. All right, now GCF. They don't all have an x in common, but if you notice, they all are divisible by 3. 3, 27, and 42. We can divide those all by 3. That's our GCF, 3. All right, to figure out what goes in the parentheses, we divide by 3. You're going to get 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. 27x divided by 3 is 9x. 42 divided by 3 is going to be 14. And then our final step is box problem. I didn't actually finish these steps. I apologize. Let me go back. After you do your box problem, I forgot to mention the ZPP part. Set things equal to 0 and solve. All right, because these ones are solving. Okay, so we got to do a box problem and then ZPP. So for this problem, we got to do a box problem. It's got to multiply to be 14 and add to be 9. Those two numbers are going to be 7 and 2. So we're going to make it 2 sets of parentheses. Our 3 goes out in front. X goes in the front of both of those parentheses. And since it's positive 7, it's plus 7. Positive 2, you put plus 2. And then our final step is we're going to set things equal to 0. We cannot set 3 equal to 0. That doesn't work. We can set x plus 7 equal to 0 and x plus 2 equal to 0. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll have my answers. So if I set x plus 7 equal to 0, I'm going to minus 7 on both sides. I get x equals negative 7. Minus 2 on both sides, I get x equals negative 2. All right, so those are going to be your answers. So you have to pay close attention whether it has an equal sign or it's a solve. You have to do that fourth step. If it doesn't have an equal sign or the word solve in the directions, then you don't do the fourth step. Okay, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is equal to 0, so we don't have to worry about moving anything around. GCF. If you notice, they all are divisible by 2, so 2 is definitely part of our GCF. If you notice, they also all have an x in common, so we're going to take the smallest exponent, which would be x to the first. All right, so it's 2x. We're going to divide each of these by 2x to see what goes inside our parentheses here. 2 divided by 2 is gone. X cubed divided by x is x squared. All right, 20 divided by 2 is 10. X squared divided by x is x. 48 divided by 2 is 24, and the x's cancel. Step 2 is done. Box problem. It's got to multiply to be 24 and add to be 10. So think about all the numbers and multiply to be 24 and add to be 10, which is 6 and 4. We're going to have two sets of parentheses. X goes at the front of both. Since it's positive 6, you put plus 6. Positive 4, you put plus 4. Then you're going to set things equal to 0. This time it's not just a 3, it's a 2x. So you can set 2x equal to 0 because of that variable. X plus 6 will set equal to 0, and x plus 4 will set equal to 0. Divide by 2, you'll get x equals 0. Subtract by 6, you get x equals negative 6. And subtract by 4, you get x equals negative 4. All right, what I'd like you to do is I would like you to try number 8. Notice that the first step is to make it equal to 0. It's not equal to 0. So start with that. Make sure it goes in descending order, then get to the GCF box problem and solving. So go ahead and give it a try and we'll go through it in a second. So pause the video. So to start this problem, you're going to want to add 19x to both sides. I put the 19x in the middle so that it was in descending order. Then I noticed that there wasn't a GCF. All right, they don't all have an x in common. 1, 19, and 18, the only thing they can all be divided by is 1. So there's really no GCF. So we can skip step 2. Step 3 is a box problem. It's got to multiply to be 18, add to be 19. Those two numbers are 18 and 1. So you make it x plus 18 times x plus 1, and then you do your final step. Set things equal to 0 and solve. X plus 18 equals 0, subtract 18, you get negative 18. X plus 1 equals 0, subtract 1, you get negative 1. And so that is the GCF factoring stuff. Thanks for listening.